Today I fucked up by trying to show off to my girlfriend. Not actually today, a couple of years ago. I had been with my girlfriend for a couple of months and things were going well. One day we were walking through town just hanging out and we ended up walking through our local shopping center. We were about to exit the center when I saw a horizontal Gothic style railing above the exit. Decided it would be a good idea to swing on the railing on the way out. Don't you wish you were this cool? Anyway, I jump up and grab onto the railing. However, this particular railing had a pattern that included bars of metal in a V or upside down triangle formation all along the railing. So naturally my fingers wedged themselves into the bottom corner of this tight gap. And before I knew it my fingers were stuck and I was just dangling there as my girlfriend looks at me awkwardly laughing and looking at me like I'm a right bellend. Which I was. The worst thing was as I was dangling in front of the exit, people from the busy shopping center kept walking around me while I was in the way, probably thinking I was just a public nuisance. After about 10 seconds, I started to panic and felt my strength slowly failing, and I remember thinking that there was a real possibility that I would actually lose my fingers in this situation. I finally built up enough adrenaline to pull myself up with one arm and release my other hand from the wedge and vice versa. My girlfriend still brings this up all the time and we've now been together for nearly 6 years. Too long didn't read. Got my fingers stuck while trying to show off to my girlfriend by swinging on a railing. I tried showing off to a girl back in high school. We were at a track practice and a buddy dared me to climb up an old friend goalpost. I did, then decided it'd be a great idea to backflip off. Landed on my head, had a concussion and missed the rest of the season. I eventually did ask the girl out and we dated for a while too. Will somebody please tell me what the hell is a bellend? Also called a helmet depending on where you're from. Dude, I truly feel for you. Lamau, thanks for the laugh man. You're very welcome, haha. I'm glad you kept all your fingers, and your girlfriend. I was worried about those fingers. Glad they made it out with them. Today I fucked up by thinking the quarantine would only last 3 weeks. Obligatory, this happened several months ago as we've been in quarantine for months. So during the beginning of year, I was staying in dorms at my university. Now, because of financial constraints, the university I went to is in the Midwest, while I myself live on the East Coast. Somehow the tuition was lower out of state. News of COVID beginning to spread hit and I was one of those "it's just a flu, don't worry" people. Well, that wasn't true. The university announced it would be shutting down the campus for 3 weeks and all classes would be virtual during that time. Stupid old me thought, wow, a 3-week vacation. So I booked a flight back home and made the decision to leave all my belongings back at my dorm, expecting to be right back in less than a month. Now here's the thing. For a while, I had an infected ingrown toenail that was really bothering me, and I was looking to get it surgically removed. I decided to get the surgery back at home as the state the university was in didn't accept my healthcare. So, I got the surgery and got that toenail removed. I had my big toe tightly bound by a bandage and I was reduced to a limp everywhere. But I thought to myself, good thing I have 3 weeks to recover, haha. Velp. The next day I get an email from campus stating that they're shutting down the school for the rest of the semester, including the residence halls. Meaning that everything left behind in those halls would get thrown away. Meaning that the suitcase worth of clothing and all the things I purchased for my dorm that semester would get thrown out. I panicked. Couldn't possibly get any worse, right? The same day, Mayor announces that all airports would no longer be allowing departures or arrivals until the quarantine ended. This rule would go into effect in 2 days, which meant that the only chance I had of saving everything I owned was flying back and getting it myself before it was too late. Keep in mind that I was still recovering from my surgery. So that very night, I bought tickets for a round-trip flight to and from my campus. Flights were especially cheap now, so I guess there's one good thing about my experience. The next day, I got my parents to drive me out to the airport. I assured them I'd be fine and that I'd see them that very night. And man, let me tell you, the experience was much worse than I anticipated. To note, the airport was completely empty. Normally it was filled to the brim with people, but now I could count everyone in sight with one hand. This made things faster for me, but it has the whole apocalypse vibe. Everything was fine at first, until the layover, of course. I happened to be the lucky person with only 15 minutes to get from one end of the airport to the other due to delays, in what is probably the longest airport I've ever been to. There I was, urgently carrying a suitcase with me as I limped my way to the next gate. It fucking hurt, of course, but I didn't have any other choices. It didn't get any better. Arriving to my destination, I had to find a cab driver. After explaining that I needed him to drive me to the dorm, wait until I packed my things, then drive me back to the airport, he told me the price would be about $80. I really couldn't be a chooser right now, so I had to take it. I really didn't think it could get any worse, but I guess God really had it out for me that day. See, I live on the 8th floor of my dorm, and for whatever reason, they decided to disable the elevators that day. So I had to limp my way up 8 floors, pack 2 suitcases with everything I could, and then bring said suitcases all the way down the stairs. I was basically crawling by the time I got up, and the way down was even worse. I wasn't able to fit everything, unfortunately. Among the losses were 2 pillows, an LED cactus lamp, my Halloween costume, a full-sized mirror, and a box of goodies my friend left for me. Gone, but not forgotten. The way back wasn't any different. Smooth flight, limp across the airport, and fly again. I successfully managed to retrieve most of my stuff, and rewarded myself with a well-deserved pasta. Did I mention that I didn't eat anything the entire day? Too long didn't read. Thinking the quarantine would only last 3 weeks, I flew back home from my university and got surgery done on my foot, only to have to fly back and manually retrieve all my stuff or else it would be thrown out. Until the layover, of course. I happened to be the lucky person with only 15 minutes to get from one end of the airport to the other due to delays. If you indicate to the flight attendants that you have walking problems and are not sure if you are going to make it with the extra delays, they can discuss things with the airport before the plane lands, and make special situations that can help you, like giving you a faster route. Potentially though staff-only areas, the route shown on the signs isn't always the fastest, as the fastest route is not always suited for the large amount of traffic. Sending out a person to help you with the luggage. Sending out a person with a wheelchair to push you faster than you can walk. Making sure you unboard the plane first. They would definitely put you in a wheelchair and board you first. They can do that for elderly or pregnant women, too. I'm sorry you went through that, but same. Except I couldn't go back to my dorm room, so I had to repurchase some of my clothing and cosmetics. I ended up carrying 4 huge boxes filled up with my stuff all the way to a friend's home months later. Last month, 4th floor. Got lucky, no elevators. I had to call a friend to carry the heavy stuff on stairs. I'm proud of you for fighting for your stuff alone in an apocalyptic airport with a hurting toe. Kudos to the shrewd cab driver. That's kinda messed up, tossing everything out of the dorm. That's true. It's not like they needed the dorms for anything, and probably many people left things there. RIP LED cactus lamp. This was very anticlimactic, but still great read. Have an upvote. Today I fucked up by telling an old man where the exit is. I work in sales, more specifically, I'm the human equivalent of a pop-up ad inside retail stores generating leads for a utility. I get blown off, or outright ignored by the majority of people I interact with. I also have a pretty decent read on whether or not someone is interested in what I offer. With COVID and everything going on, I like to be extra helpful when I can, and just kind of chit-chat with people, even if they don't sign up for anything. Friendly human interaction is good, right? Anyways, this older gentleman, maybe like 80+ years old, slowly walks up to me. There are certain people I won't pitch, the older crowd is usually in that group, so I just say hello and ask how he's doing. Very friendly, a bit slow to talk, just wanted to know whether or not he could exit at the doors by the registers. I told him, absolutely, they're not really monitoring doors too much here. Off he went to the exit. A few minutes go by and an older woman comes up and asks if I had seen her husband. I described his mask, and his flannel, and she confirmed that was him. Oh lord, he has Alzheimer's. Fuck. He was in a flannel, and it's like 90 degrees today, and I kind of just directed him out to the hot parking lot. I hurry outside and wander around for a few minutes and find the man confused as all hell. He thought he drove, and was looking for his car. Walk him back to his wife. She thanks me, and they go about their day. So yeah, kind of wondering why they got separated, but also not really my business. Just happy he didn't go missing or anything. Too long didn't read, accidentally helped an old guy with Alzheimer's find his way to a hot parking lot, then got him safely back to his wife. I remember when I worked as a taxi driver, I picked up an older German man, who was a serious backseat driver, and dropped him off at Ingles. Told him I'd be back in 45 minutes to an hour to pick him up. Thought all was fine and dandy till dispatch calls 20 minutes later frantic cause his daughter was supposed to take him to the store and found him gone already. Turns out he had Alzheimer's and nobody knew. Got a call from the police as I was racing back to find him and gave them his description. Found him arguing with a poor woman over by the post office next door cause he thought she was me and thought she had lost the whole taxi limo. I'm just glad he didn't get hurt. The strange thing about Alzheimer is that sometimes people forget how weak they already are. I have a grandfather who has Alzheimer, too. Normally he can barely walk, but sometimes he just stands up and old people runs out of the house to go shopping. Oh buddy, not only did you do nothing wrong, you also stepped in to help. Don't be too hard on yourself. You didn't do anything wrong. He needs to head over to r/tits. Today I told stories. Hey op, please don't feel bad. You didn't FU. It's a totally invisible illness and people with it can be so good at appearing normal. My nan had it, and eventually had to go into a care home because home-based care just wasn't enough anymore. The home was specially set up to cope with Alzheimer's, and had keypad locks on all the doors to exits, precisely because people with Alzheimer's do try to head out for a wander. One day my mum was up visiting my nan when a well-dressed lady in her 50s approached her in the corridor near the exit. She said to mum that she'd forgotten how to get out, so mum said, oh yeah, the code is 4x today. To anyone looking at her, this lady had her shit together and was probably visiting a relative but forgot the code to exit. Nope. Nurse came running when she clocked what was happening. The lady was indeed only in her 50s, but had early onset dementia. Almost daily she got someone to give her the code. These things happen. Looking after a person who has dementia is extraordinarily stressful because they do things like this, but nobody would ever be angry at someone for responding normally to what looked like a normal request. You then went and found the man and brought him back. You did everything right. You didn't FU, but screw dementia. Horrible, horrible illness I wouldn't wish on anyone.